Right.
I know last night you said Eric Comrie's a pro's pro. You don't really worry about him with this type of adversity. How have you noticed him adjusting into the locker room now that we've got preseason play out of the way? What else have you learned about his mentality?
He's a worker. He's relentless, tireless worker. His teammates, former and present, uh, love him. I mean, because he shows care for his team. He commits hard. He stays out. Just simple little things like staying out for all the shooters that want to stay out after practice. That's actually a really big deal to the guys that want to shoot more pucks and try to work on scoring, is to have a goalie in the net for them the whole time. So he's very aware of maybe going beyond what he would do and help other guys prepare as well. And one thing that stood out to me is after we did sign him, the couple of people that did call me from around the league, former players that I had or coaches in the league, to tell me what a great acquisition. That they just want to see this guy succeed and believe that he can. So his reputation absolutely preceded himself here, and it's easy to see why those guys would have made calls just for no other reason but out of respect for him.
Don, as you look back now, are you pleased with what you saw both training camp and preseason games as a whole, with the progression of your team?
Yeah, it's a tricky question because, in the context of which is what is the regular season and the rest of the league. So, we still have a few more practices before the first game. The practices are going to ramp up a little bit. Every day these guys are getting better. Last night's game was, we had a lot of guys in the lineup maybe that they won't be with us, but it was disjointed. They were sloppy at times. And I think every team in the league is going to run into that more early on and less later on. So for me, am I happy with where we're at? I guess, in many respects, you don't know where you're at because it's in the context of the rest of the league. And so you almost remain neutral, Paul, and just keep pushing our guys, knowing that you're going to have like last night's game is a perfect example. You can look at areas that, okay, we absolutely need to work on this. Our players are a little bit rusty in this component of our game, or they don't have quite the sense of objective in this area of the game. And you don't know what areas of the game those are going to be until you get into the regular season, and the entire league, ramps it up, and there's no more non-NHL players playing in the games. And so, you're still taking all that information in.
How do you assess I don't want to dwell on last night's game, it's just one game, but how do you assess things when the other team brings Crosby and Malkin and all these guys?
Yeah, no, very good question. How we would assess things, knowing that their their lineup was very experienced. I would say, and for us, the challenge for when I look at the video and even from the bench, it was a challenge. Is when we play and teams play a 5-man unit. It's a unit of 5 and thinking and processing together up and down the rink, both offensively and defensively. And when I go through the film, we had a new player or two in every 5-man sequence that was on that ice. And that's enough for a team like that to completely exploit. And you saw that in segments. So we didn't have the continuity. Obviously, our top 4 defensemen weren't in the game, and those guys could play 50 minutes for us. Between Samuelson, Power, Dahlin, and Jokiharju, they could play 50 minutes. So, I think, and then, so I think that was a big factor last night. But it's a bonus because you can look at, okay, where might the new guys not understand our system, our way of playing? So extreme value in that there were mistakes made. And, a lot of individual video with some of the younger players and some of the newer players coming in to resolve that difference of, what's going to be expected of them in each situation as it went up and down the rink last night.
Bryce was asking, you had a really good world championship. You probably saw some of the games up close or on film. What happened to him during that tournament that just had an explode?
Yeah, with Aspie, he was in the same bracket. There were two brackets at Men's World Championship. I was with the U.S. team, and so was Sweden in the bracket in Helsinki, or Yokoharu's hometown. I can't even think of the name of it now, but spent a month there. But I found myself excited for him and Cuzzy because they're playing so well, and I would I'd go watch Team Sweden play. Obviously, we're in the same rink, so when we weren't playing, they were playing, and I could watch, and it was very interesting to sit up top as his coach and watch him have the success he had. It was great. You could see, knowing all the work that he's put in and puts in, knowing how intelligent a player he is. He really thrived. He became the coaches there on Team Sweden bumped him up to I would guess he's the highest minute guy up front, and Dahls was probably the highest minute guy in the back end in that tournament. And that was nice to see a coach that hadn't had him bump these guys up to basically star status on that team and give them tons of responsibility, and they didn't disappoint. They both were good. And we're talking about Aspie, he was great in that tournament. So it was enjoyable to watch, and I couldn't wait to go back and watch him again the next time. And it helps you formulate as well, what components of that can transcend then into the NHL. And I think there's a lot still for him that we'll see him become even better NHL player.
Can you tell, maybe some issue, but can you tell that he wants more? I mean, just talking to him in the locker room,
He's never satisfied. Yeah, he's never satisfied. And we want players that are never satisfied. The last thing I want is a player that's satisfied. And so he fits that, kind of objective of ours as an organization, guys that are just hungry for more. They want more. That, after last night's game, that, something like that, preseason or not, they're pissed off. I mean, and really determined that, something like this doesn't happen with any consistency. I mean, it's you play 82 games, you're going to have bad nights, but you don't want them to, bad to be consistent. And he's a guy that is, relentless in pursuit of being better.
What do you like about Victor with Tage and Jeff? I know lines can change, but just having that skill set with those two guys, it's something that I know you want him to take a look at it, after Alex.
Yeah, Vic has really elevated through his injury last year. We challenged him as coaches. You've been a player that we all know as a shooter, and position yourself for that shot. And when he had the wrist injury and he had to play 30 games without, with that superpower nullified, basically, we challenged him to, use these time to find other ways to become effective. And he stepped back, I believe, and observed other ways to interact with line mates, make plays rather than, being the end of the play where he finishes. And he became a better player. And he's plays a wiser game, but hasn't lost his knack for scoring, his sense of where to be and when and timing. And through the process, I think he's developed some chemistry with Skinner and Thompson to the point where I think it's a real good combination. As I've mentioned all along, we don't have to, we want to have interchangeable parts. So I also think he can be effective with other guys as well. But I do believe, he has added another level of wisdom to his game that fits well with Skinner and Thompson.
Are Prisky, Davies, and Clegg, are they going through the process now of being Rochester?
Yes, they are, which would mean they have to be placed on waivers to be put to Rochester. So that's the plan, and we'll see where that goes from that. Obviously, we've got to wait a day. Once that happens, if they clear, the plan would be for them to be there.
You mentioned how you kind of assess the whole group in a game like last night when there's a bit of an experience gap between the two teams. What about specifically the goalie position? Eric had a couple of those games where he was kind of playing in front of a less experienced group than the opponent. How do you kind of evaluate goalie in that?
Yeah, I don't want to evaluate him certainly on goals against or result, but on focused effort, you want to make sure he doesn't take a hit of confidence because we're putting him in a tough predicament. I mean, we know we're going into Pittsburgh. We knew their lineup was ahead of time, and we left our top four defensemen back. that's a tough situation for a goalie. But my conversations with Com through camp was he wanted the road games, and he said in his words, I want to play on the road because it'll be against better lineups and it's a tougher game. And it helps me get better prepared for the regular season. I mentioned last night after the game that I don't know that I would have done that with a younger goalie. But having had that conversation with him, he was very comfortable with that, and he wanted that. So he wanted more adversity. He faced a lot of shots that he'll probably not face, not with any consistency, in a regular season NHL game. It's just, the breakdowns and breakdown in structure from guys that don't know our structure yet was clear and evident when you flip through the film. So a lot of that will be cleaned up, and I think he's been around long enough to know and sense that. So I wanted to reassure him even after the game last night that he's going to be successful for us. He's got too many ingredients that point to success to be denied. And from us as an organization, as a coaching staff, when that's the case, much like Tage Thompson last year, you have to back them and support them, and they have to know you back them. And he knows that. He knows. We are happy that he's in our organization, and we believe in his ability, and so much that we know he's on the cusp of being way better than he's ever been as an NHL player based on his experience and work ethic combined.
What do you think about the idea of, like, you mentioned he's like one of the last guys out there almost every single day. He wants all these shots, but he's also probably going to have a bigger workload this year than he's ever had. Have you had those conversations?
No, I haven't had those conversations, but it's interesting you bring that up because it's there. You always have different concerns as a coach, and so I don't want him, overworked either. And I have a concern and thought, is there balance there? I haven't been around him enough, but I keep hearing more about his reputation and watching him about how hard this guy works, and I do believe that you can work to exhaustion, and that's not healthy, especially in a season like this. And then, it's tough on the psyche too when you're tired and fatigued. We all know that, just in real life. Is there a balance that needs to be met? I don't know yet, but I'm watching that to make certain he's not overdoing it physically, at the compromise of maybe, not staying fresh mentally.
Thank you.
Yep.